The best way to get better at programming is to practice. And in this example, we're going to open up a file called info.txt and read the contents of that file in. As always, these files are provided in a link provided in the description below. We'll give you a couple seconds so you can download that file if you don't have it already. Then you can pause this video and try it on your own, then check your answer, or if you prefer, you can just follow along with us. All right, so let's get started. Once again, since we're working with a file, we're going to need to include fstream. And then we're going to need a variable for reading the input file. So in this case, we can use ifstream. This is an input file stream. It's a data type for an object. And then we give it a variable. And I'm going to call it input. I could call this input file, whatever I want. Now, if you saw previously when we did an output, we said ofstream out, and then we said out.open. Well, I can combine those two and simply in here say info.txt. So what this does though is it kind of looks like a function call, but what it's letting me do is specify the file that I want to have open. So it just simplifies, takes two lines, merges it into one. Now I don't know how big info.txt is, and I don't know if this file could change, and so I need to use a conditional loop because I want to read it until we get to the end of the file. So I'm going to specify while, then use the exclamation point. This is not, okay? So what am I notting? Well, I'm going to say input.eof. This is a special function call that says, am I at the end of file, EOF. Well, EOF means I'm already at the end. I want to do it while I'm not at the end. So do it until I get to the end. And so I say the exclamation point, which is not input in the file. I then need to read it into a string because I'm going to print this out one line at a time. So how can I easily do that? Well, let me create a string variable. And I'm going to call this temp just because I'm going to use this temporarily. And then just like when I get a file from the input console, okay, the CN console input, I'm going to say input, which is my file name, two arrows pointing to temp. Then I'm going to cout temp because I'm printing that out. And then I'm going to go and run through this loop again. And for each line that I have, it's going to go and run. Now, if I come here and run this file, you notice, oh my goodness, I put everything all together. That's because it didn't grab that end of line. Okay? So we're going to have to intentionally put that in there ourselves. So easy change is going to say temp, two more arrows, and then I'm going to put an indel. All right, so you've noticed that I read this now. Notice how it's like each individual word, and then it has a new line character. What did it do? Well, remember, when we use the input stream, it went until we found something that broke. So like, for example, a character, like a space. Okay? Well, we don't want to split on a space. So how do we fix that with console input? Well, we use a special function. So therefore, we're going to fix it the same way we did when we had the CN. And come up here, going to include another file. Remember, that was string. And then I'm going to go ahead and comment out line 23, that input to temp. Now I'm going to say get line. My input stream, which is input, notice it doesn't have to be that CN, that console in. In this case, it's actually a file. And then what variable am I going to store it to? Temp. Now when I go and run this, instead of being all jumbled up or all having just one big long column of words, notice we read in the whole line. And now we've done this, you can see that it is part of Hamlet. So you can kind of see that reads it in just fine the way you expect. If you look at the bottom, you notice that there is something that's a little bit off. It's probably some form of UTF character instead of a plain text character. So it's a pretty minor thing that we could go in and fix with our text. But that's how you're going to go in and read in a multi-line text file that has multiple words on each line. Very easy to do. Notice it only took a couple of lines of code. Now, the other thing you might have noticed is that we did forget one step. And C++ should do this for me automatically, but I always like to do it just to make sure I don't forget this step. And that is, I'm going to say input.close. And that just makes sure we close out the file. Like I said, C++ should do this when the application exits, but it's always good to use good programming habits and close anything that you open. All right, hopefully you found that example very helpful to you. If so, please give it a like and look at the other files in this series to learn how to get better at programming in C and C++.